Hi everybody! I'm going to just go over a few of the basics for your first essay, and hopefully this type of video that I'm going to do with each of your major assignments is going to help you out a little bit on being more clear on what is expected, etc. Because in my face-to-face classes, I do give an explanation in person. So here we go. What is your first essay about? Well, we've been discussing culture, and so your first essay is going to allow you to analyze a certain aspect of culture. For our purposes, I'm going to have you guys choose a subculture, a specific community or group of people that exist within society. Usually, a subculture will be united with shared traits and motivations and language, etc. So you are going to choose a subculture, and I have given you examples on the assignment sheet. I'm also going to have you guys brainstorm in the forum this week. But what are you going to actually do once you've chosen your subculture? Well, you're going to need to find out information about it. You're going to need to observe it if at all possible. Once you gather information, then you can begin to analyze and ask questions and interpret what is important about that subculture, why it exists, how does society portray that subculture, how do they see themselves, why are they significant to American culture or society? Those are some of the broad questions that you will ask yourself and answer, but you can't do that until you actually gather some information first. And so on the assignment sheet that you guys should have already read and hopefully printed out, you'll notice that I give you some ideas for how to gather information. You may use primary research if you want to, and primary research is when you actually gather the information yourself. Excuse me. So that means that you may actually find a person who considers themselves to be a member of this subculture, and maybe you interview them, and you find out information from them as an insider. You may also find that a group of members of this subculture perhaps get together. If they're united around an activity, then they may get together to do that activity. And so if you can find out that there is actually a group within your actual town or neighboring town, then you may be able to actually go and firsthand observe them. So that would be primary research: surveys, interviews, observation. It's not required for you to be able to do well in this essay, but if you had the chance to utilize any primary research, I really recommend that you do. It'll help you out, and it's also actually very interesting to be able to do that type of research. You can also use secondary research if you choose, so using any of the library databases that you guys learned about last semester. Again, it's not required for you to do well on this particular essay that you actually have to do library research, but you may find some useful information there. You can also, however, utilize popular sources and online research for this essay, and that's what I suspect that most of you guys will do. Now, by popular sources, I mean you may look at various aspects of media. You may look at news, film, TV, etc. And you want to see, do any of these aspects of media actually portray the subculture that I am studying? You can also look online for sources that may give you information about the characteristics of the subculture. What are their interests? What are their goals? What are some of their rituals? If you're able to use primary research to get that type of information, then that's your best bet. But obviously you can find that information elsewhere as well, right? So what are the two main things then that you are going to be doing and giving in your final essay of this assignment? You are going to be describing and explaining the subculture that you've chosen by telling us about its rituals, its characteristics, its language, its purposes. what its members are like. And then second, you are going to actually analyze how this subculture has been portrayed in society, in news, and in popular media. Have they been portrayed more negatively? If so, for what reasons might you hypothesize that is occurring? Do other people find them to be significant? Do they play a significant role in society? Is another question that you may ask. Do they have a pretty positive portrayal? Have they changed at all? If so, what might account for those changes? I have questions like that in the last page of your actual essay guidelines, and that's to help you get into the mode of analysis and interpretation. But notice that some of those questions that I'm telling you right now are all analytical questions. So if you think back on the actual PowerPoint that you guys read for last week, the analysis PowerPoint, and I showed you that step-by-step guide of going from observation into analysis into interpretation. You're going to be utilizing that for this assignment. You've got to have information, you have to have examples first to actually observe. And then you need to come up with some questions and things you can look for in order to analyze. And so I've given you examples of some analytical questions, but I want you to be able to come up with some on your own as well. And perhaps you think of something that I haven't thought of in relation to your subculture. And it's an interesting angle or perspective that you can take. And I encourage you to do that. Absolutely do that. All right? And so your final essay is going to basically give information about the characteristics of the subculture, how it's defined, what it looks like, etc. And then it's also going to have your analysis of the subculture, its significance, its portrayal in society, etc. We'll look more throughout the next couple of weeks. We'll look at examples. We will look at how to organize this type of essay. But for now, you are going to brainstorm this week on various subcultures and then decide on one that you want to use. And then you'll get started with looking for information and looking for examples. Remember, you cannot actually have overall interpretations or conclusions before you have evidence and information that you have carefully looked at and observed, kind of like a scientific experiment. You're not going to have a scientific conclusion when you haven't done any experimenting or any observation. You have no evidence to account for that. All right, so good luck with this essay, and I do hope that you guys enjoy it.